There comes a moment in every human life when the soul whispers a truth so simple, so liberating, that the ego trembles at its power. You were not born to chase, to cling, or to beg for love. You were born whole. You were born connected to the infinite source of all creation. And when you remember this, when you truly remember this, something inside you softens. The tight grip loosens. The fear begins to dissolve. And you realize that letting them go is not a loss. It is a return to yourself. So many of us have built our identities around who stays and who leaves. We measure our worth by the presence of another. We tell ourselves stories. If they choose me, I matter. If they stay, I am lovable. If they leave, I am not enough. But who taught you that your value is dependent on another soul's journey? Who whispered that lie into your consciousness? That was not the voice of your higher self. That was the voice of the ego, the part of you that believes you are separate, small, incomplete. Imagine for a moment that you are like the sky, the vast, infinite sky. People are like clouds. They drift in, they drift out. Some are dark and stormy. Some are light and luminous. Some stay for years, others pass in moments. But none of them define the sky. The sky does not cling to a cloud and say, please don't go, I am nothing without you. The sky remains expansive, open, untouched in its essence. You are the sky. When someone leaves your life, it is not the sky that is damaged. It is only a cloud that has moved on. And yet the ego screams, hold on! Without this cloud, you will be empty. But the soul knows better. The soul knows it has never been empty. It knows it is connected to the infinite ocean of love that birthed it. Let them go. Let them go, not because you are bitter, not because you are resentful, but because you trust the deeper intelligence of life. The same intelligence that moves the tides, that opens the flowers in spring, that spins the planets in perfect harmony. This intelligence is guiding every soul, including the ones who walk away from you. You cannot hold a butterfly by crushing it in your fist. Love cannot survive under control, and happiness cannot be built on the fear of abandonment. The ego says, if I am alone, I am unworthy. The soul says, when I am alone, I remember who I truly am. To be alone is not to be lonely. Loneliness is the cry of the ego that has forgotten its source. Aloneness is the sacred space where you rediscover it. There is a profound difference when you learn to sit quietly with yourself without distraction, without noise, without reaching for someone to fill the silence. You begin to hear the gentle hum of your own being. You begin to feel the presence that has always been there, the same presence you felt as a child when you stared at the stars and wondered at the mystery of existence. That presence is you, not the roles you play, not the relationships you accumulate, not the labels you wear. You are the awareness behind all of it. And awareness does not need validation. Why do we cling so tightly? Because the ego believes love is scarce. It believes there is a limited supply, and if this person leaves, there may not be another. But love is not a commodity. It is not something another person gives you. Love is what you are when you are aligned with your source. An orange squeeze will release whatever is inside of it. If anger comes out when life squeezes you, that anger was already within you. If love comes out, that love was already there. When someone leaves and despair pours from your heart, it is not because they took your happiness. It is because you had placed your happiness outside of yourself. This is not a judgment. It is an awakening. You see, the world has taught you to seek externally, to chase approval, to collect relationships like trophies. But the deepest spiritual truth is this: you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. When you are grounded in your own wholeness, when you are happy alone, you become magnetic not because you need someone, but because you radiate completeness. Let them go. Let them walk their path. Bless them in your heart. Release the story that says their departure diminishes you. You cannot lose what is meant for your soul's evolution. And what leaves was never yours to possess. It was yours to experience. Every relationship is a teacher. Some teach you joy, some teach you patience, some teach you boundaries, and some teach you the most sacred lesson of all, how to stand on your own spiritual feet. The ego fears standing alone because it confuses solitude with abandonment, but solitude is where the mystics go to meet God. Solitude is where the artist finds inspiration. Solitude is where the wounded heart heals itself. When you learn to be happy alone, you become dangerous to the ego-driven world. Because a person who is happy alone cannot be manipulated. They cannot be controlled by the threat of rejection. They cannot be coerced into shrinking themselves just to keep someone close. They love freely, and freedom is the highest vibration of love. Ask yourself gently, who would I be if I stopped chasing? Who would I become if I stopped trying to convince someone of my worth? What dreams would awaken inside me if I redirected all that energy inward? There is a reservoir of untapped power within you. But as long as you are pouring your life force into holding on to someone who is meant to go, you cannot access it. Let them go so you can meet yourself. The ego thrives on drama. It replays conversations. It imagines alternate endings. It seeks closure through explanation. But the soul does not need closure. The soul understands that every ending is simply a transition in form. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only change shape. The love you shared does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes wisdom. It becomes strength. It becomes compassion. And sometimes it becomes the courage to say, I deserve peace. There are no justified resentments. Every resentment is a poison you swallow, hoping another will suffer. When someone leaves and you hold on to anger, you remain energetically entangled. True freedom comes not from holding on tighter, but from releasing with grace. Forgiveness is not condoning. It is freeing yourself from the chains of attachment. Say quietly within your heart, I release you. I release myself. I choose peace over possession. Feel the shift when you say it. Feel the lightness. Happiness alone is not a consolation prize. It is the foundation of spiritual maturity. It is the recognition that you are not half of a whole waiting to be completed. You are a whole being, inviting another whole being to share the journey. When two people who are happy alone come together, they do not cling, they expand, they do not demand. They offer, they do not fear loss, because they know their essence cannot be taken. The ocean does not grieve when a wave returns to its depth. It knows the wave was never separate from it. In the same way, when someone exits your life, understand that you both arose from the same source. Nothing real can be lost. You are not your relationship status. You are not the story of who left you. You are not the rejection you experienced. You are the awareness in which all of these experiences occur, and awareness is eternal. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your life as a vast ocean. People are waves that rise and fall. Some waves are magnificent and powerful. Others are gentle and fleeting. But the ocean remains deep, steady, infinite. Be the ocean. Stop identifying with the waves. When you can sit in your own presence and feel content, when silence no longer frightens you, when your joy does not depend on a text message or a validation from another, then you have remembered your divine identity. And from that place, relationships become sacred, not desperate. You begin to ask, not will they stay, but does this connection align with my highest self? You no longer negotiate your peace to avoid being alone. You understand that being alone with peace is infinitely richer than being accompanied by turmoil. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with blessing. Trust that life is rearranging itself in your favor. Trust that the empty space is not emptiness, but invitation. Invitation to deepen your relationship with yourself. Invitation to create, to explore, to grow, to rest. The ego says, without them you are incomplete. The soul smiles and replies, I was complete before they arrived. There is a sacred dignity in choosing yourself, in saying, I will not abandon myself to keep another. When you abandon your own truth, your own needs, your own boundaries, just to prevent someone from leaving, you create suffering. Not because they left, but because you left yourself. Return. Return to your center. Return to your breath. Return to the knowing that you are an individualized expression of the divine. You are not here to cling. You are here to expand. The more you release, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the higher you rise. And from that elevation, you see clearly, no one was ever meant to complete you. They were meant to accompany you for as long as your paths aligned. When paths diverge, bless the divergence. Say thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the growth. And then, with courage born of spiritual awareness, step forward alone. For in that aloneness, you will discover something miraculous. You will discover that you are not alone at all. You are held by the same intelligence that beats your heart without your command. You are guided by the same wisdom that orchestrates galaxies. You are loved by a force so vast that no human departure could ever diminish it. Feel that now. Feel the presence within you that has never left. The presence that was there before your first relationship. The presence that will remain after your last. Anchor yourself there. And from that anchor, live freely, love freely, release freely. Let them go. And in doing so, learn the most sacred art of all, to be happy alone. And as you begin to rest in this inner anchoring, something extraordinary happens. You stop negotiating with life. You no longer plead with the universe to rearrange itself according to your preferences. Instead, you align yourself with what is. You begin to see that resistance was never protection, it was tension. It was the ego's attempt to outsmart the wisdom of creation. There is a sacred intelligence moving through every experience you have ever had. It has never once made a mistake. Not in the heartbreak, not in the silence, not in the unanswered calls or the doors that quietly closed. What if those moments were not punishments, but precise redirections? What if the very absence you feared was the clearing necessary for your becoming? The ego is addicted to attachment because attachment creates identity. I am the one who was chosen. I am the one who was left. I am the one who needs. But these are costumes, not truth. Beneath them is a being untouched by circumstance. Beneath them is a consciousness that existed before any name was given to you. When you stop clutching at the forms of life, you begin to experience the formless. And the formless is where peace lives. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert at sunrise. There is nothing to grasp. No walls, no distractions, just space, endless space. At first, it may feel intimidating. The mind searches for structure, for something to lean on. But if you stay long enough, if you allow yourself to breathe into that openness, you realize that the space is not empty, it is alive. It is possibility itself. This is what your solitude truly is. It is not a void, it is a field of infinite creation. When you release someone, you are not stepping into nothingness. You are stepping into potential. You are reclaiming the energy that was once tangled in expectation and returning it to its pure state. And in that purity, you rediscover your creative power. The universe responds not to your desperation, but to your alignment. It mirrors your internal state. If you vibrate with fear of abandonment, you will perceive instability everywhere. If you embody wholeness, you will attract experiences that resonate with that wholeness. This is not mystical fantasy, it is spiritual law. You are not here to chase what runs from you. You are here to become so rooted in your own essence that what aligns with you finds you effortlessly. A flower does not pursue the bee, it simply blooms. Bloom, allow your life to unfold without gripping at outcomes. Trust that what belongs in your experience will remain without force, and what must depart will do so regardless of your resistance. Why exhaust yourself trying to control what was never yours to command? There is tremendous strength in allowing. It is not passive. It is not weak. It is a conscious surrender to a higher order. When you surrender, you are not giving up. You are giving over. You are saying, I trust the greater design more than my limited perception. And in that trust, anxiety dissolves. So many people believe that independence means isolation, but spiritual independence is something entirely different. It is the realization that your joy does not require a witness, that your laughter does not need validation, that your worth is not determined by another's recognition. Can you sit in a quiet room and feel fulfilled simply by your own presence? Can you walk through life appreciating your own company? This is not arrogance. It is reverence. Reverence for the divine spark that animates you. The ego whispers, without constant connection, you will disappear. But your true nature cannot vanish. It is not dependent on attention. It is sustained by source itself. There is a freedom that comes when you stop performing for love. When you no longer edit your thoughts, soften your truths, or dim your light to keep someone comfortable. When you release the need to be chosen, you finally choose yourself. And choosing yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. It is an acknowledgement that you are responsible for the energy you bring into this world. If you abandon your authenticity to secure companionship, you fracture your spirit. But when you honor your inner knowing, even if it means standing alone for a season, You strengthen your alignment. Life is not asking you to cling, it is inviting you to evolve. Every ending is an initiation. Every departure is an invitation to ascend into a new awareness. When someone exits your life, the question is not, why did this happen to me? The deeper question is, who am I becoming because of this? Pain can either close your heart or deepen it. The choice is yours. You can build walls to protect yourself from future loss, or you can expand your capacity to love without possession. Love without possession. This is the art. To care deeply while understanding that nothing in the physical world is permanent. To appreciate fully while knowing that change is inevitable. To give your heart without binding it in chains. When you embody this understanding, relationships become lighter. They become conscious exchanges rather than contracts of fear. You stop measuring security by duration and start measuring it by alignment. And if alignment shifts, you allow the shift. There is something profoundly beautiful about a person who can say, I loved you deeply, and now I release you peacefully. That is spiritual maturity. That is mastery over the ego's impulses. The ego demands certainty. The soul embraces mystery. You are not here to guarantee outcomes. You are here to experience growth. Sometimes growth requires companionship. Sometimes it requires solitude. Both are sacred. Both are teachers. When you learn to be content within yourself, you stop chasing the illusion that someone else holds the key to your fulfillment. You realize that fulfillment is an inside job. It is cultivated through awareness, gratitude, and alignment with your higher self. Gratitude shifts everything. Instead of focusing on who is absent, focus on the presence that remains, the breath in your lungs, the beat of your heart, the quiet resilience that has carried you through every storm so far. You have survived every goodbye you once thought would break you. And here you are, still breathing, still becoming. That is not weakness. That is evidence of your inner strength. There is a luminous core within you that has never been wounded by rejection. It has observed your experiences without being defined by them. When you meditate, when you sit in stillness, when you withdraw from the noise of external validation, you begin to feel this core. It is steady. It is calm. It is untouched. From this place, you understand that nothing real can threaten you. Only illusions can dissolve. And when illusions dissolve, truth stands revealed. The truth is that you are not incomplete. You are not abandoned. You are not behind in life because someone chose a different direction. You are precisely where your soul needs to be. Let life unfold without gripping it. If someone chooses another path, bless their journey. Their departure is not a verdict on your value. It is a reflection of their alignment. And alignment is deeply personal. It cannot be forced. It cannot be negotiated. Release comparison. Release the temptation to question your worth. Worth is inherent. It is not earned through another's commitment. As you deepen into this awareness, you begin to experience a quiet joy. A joy that does not fluctuate with external circumstances. A joy that arises from simply being. Being, not striving, not proving, not seeking, just being. In that state of being, you become magnetic to life itself. Opportunities emerge, connections form organically, creativity awakens, not because you chased them, but because you aligned with your essence. And if someone new enters your life from this place, it will not be from lack, it will be from overflow. You will share your joy rather than search for it. Until then, cherish this sacred season of self-discovery. Do not rush through it. Do not label it as waiting. You are not waiting. You are becoming more aware, more grounded, more aligned. Let others misunderstand your solitude if they must. Let them project their fears onto your independence. You know the truth. You know that your aloneness is not emptiness, it is expansion. And as you expand, you recognize that love was never something to chase. It was something to embody. So embody it. Be gentle with yourself. Speak kindly to your own heart. Celebrate your growth. Honor your resilience. The journey of releasing attachment is not always comfortable, but it is liberating. You are learning to stand without leaning, to love without clinging, to exist without performing. This is freedom. And freedom is the birthright of every soul courageous enough to remember who they truly are. And as this freedom begins to settle into your bones, you start to recognize that what once felt like emptiness was actually spaciousness. There is a profound difference. Emptiness feels like something is missing. Spaciousness feels like something is possible. One contracts your spirit, the other invites it to expand. For so long, perhaps you filled every silence with noise, every ache with distraction, every pause with pursuit. But now you are learning to sit within the pause. You are discovering that silence is not your enemy, it is your teacher. In the quiet, you begin to notice how much of your suffering was born from resistance. Resistance to endings, resistance to change, resistance to the natural rhythm of arrival and departure that governs all of life. The trees do not cling to their leaves when autumn comes. They release them gracefully, trusting that spring will return. Why, then, do we believe we must hold on to every person, every chapter, every version of ourselves? Because the ego fears dissolution. It equates change with annihilation. It whispers, if this ends, you will disappear. But you have ended 1,000 chapters before this one. Childhood ended, seasons ended, friendship shifted, and yet here you stand, still breathing, still conscious, still evolving. You are not the chapter, you are the author. When you begin to see yourself as the awareness behind the experience rather than the victim within it, everything shifts. You stop asking, why was I left? And begin asking, what is life guiding me toward? This is the turning point. This is where pain becomes initiation. There is an ancient understanding that the soul chooses growth over comfort, not because it enjoys struggle, but because expansion requires it. When someone walks away, it often cracks open the parts of you that were asleep. It forces you inward. It compels you to examine the beliefs you held about love, about worthiness, about dependency. And in that examination, you awaken. You begin to see how often you shaped yourself to be acceptable, how frequently you silenced your intuition to avoid conflict, how many times you ignored your own needs to preserve a connection. This is not cause for shame, it is cause for awareness. Awareness is the first act of liberation. When you let them go, you are not only releasing another person, you are releasing the version of yourself who believed she or he needed to be less in order to be loved. That version served its purpose. There is a more authentic you emerging now, a you that understands that love is not proven through sacrifice of self, a you that recognizes that harmony cannot be sustained by suppressing truth, a you that values inner alignment more than external approval. This emergence may feel unfamiliar at first. Growth often does, but stay with it. The discomfort is temporary. The clarity is enduring. As you stand in your own presence without reaching outward for completion, you begin to sense a quiet companionship with life itself. You notice the way the sunlight falls across the floor, the way the wind moves through trees, the subtle rhythm of your own breath. These simple moments, once overlooked, become profound. You are not missing anything. In fact, you are finally present enough to receive what has always been here. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine what your life would feel like if you truly believed deep within the quiet sanctuary of your being that you are already the best, that no one is better than you, and that you were never meant to measure yourself against another soul. Not in arrogance, not in comparison, but in remembrance, in truth, in the deep knowing that the life breathing through you is the same life breathing through the stars. What if acting as if you are the best is not about elevating yourself above others, but about stepping out of the smallness that the ego has taught you to accept? What if it is about reclaiming your original nature before the labels, before the criticism, before the endless measuring and competing and proving? You were not born comparing yourself. A newborn does not apologize for its cry. It does not ask whether another infant cries more beautifully. It simply expresses life. Acting as if you are the best is an act of spiritual defiance against a world that has hypnotized you into believing you are less. The ego whispers, be better than them. Spirit gently says, you are already whole. The ego thrives on hierarchy, on first place and last place, on superior and inferior. But spirit knows nothing of these illusions. Spirit only knows expression. Just as the oak tree does not compete with the rose, and the ocean does not envy the sky, you were never designed to compare your magnificence to another's. When you squeeze an orange juice comes out. Not apple juice, not grape juice. Whatever is inside must come out when pressure is applied. And so when life squeezes you through rejection, failure, criticism, what comes out? If what emerges is fear, resentment, jealousy, then that is what has been stored within. But if what flows out is confidence, compassion, and an unwavering sense of worth, then you are living from the awareness that you are already the best expression of the divine in the form that is you. Act as if you are the best, not because you need applause, but because you understand that the source that created galaxies chose to express itself uniquely as you. There has never been another combination of consciousness, experience, perspective, and possibility exactly like this one. And there never will be again. That alone makes you incomparable. But the ego resists this truth. It says, who do you think you are? And I invite you to answer that question boldly. Who do you think you are? Are you merely a body accumulating achievements? Are you a resume, a bank account, a reflection in someone else's approval? Or are you a spiritual being having a temporary human experience, here to remember your magnificence? Acting as if you are the best means walking into a room without shrinking. It means speaking your truth without apology. It means creating without waiting for permission. It means loving without fear of rejection. It means understanding that your value does not fluctuate based on external outcomes. The sky does not become less vast because a storm passes through it. The sky remains the sky. Thoughts, emotions, and circumstances are like clouds. They move, they shift, they appear and disappear. But the awareness behind them, the infinite, observing presence that you are, remains untouched. When you identify with the clouds, you feel small and temporary. When you identify with the sky, you feel expansive and eternal. Act as if you are the sky. So often, we have been conditioned to dim our light in order to make others comfortable. We have been taught that humility means self-doubt, that confidence is arrogance, that shining too brightly will cause discomfort. But true humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. It is knowing your greatness and not needing to announce it. It is understanding that your brilliance does not threaten others, it illuminates the path for them. When you act as if you are the best, you give others silent permission to do the same. You become a mirror reflecting back to them their own forgotten power. And in that reflection, something extraordinary happens. Competition dissolves. Comparison fades. The illusion of separation softens. What remains is mutual elevation. The ego says, there is not enough success, not enough love, not enough recognition. But the spiritual truth is abundance. The ocean does not worry about running out of water. The sun does not ration its light. Nature does not compete, it expresses. If you truly understood that you are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence, how would you walk? How would you speak? How would you choose? You would no longer hesitate at the threshold of your dreams. You would no longer ask, am I good enough? You would ask, how can I serve from this greatness within me? Because acting as if you are the best is not about domination, it is about contribution. The ego seeks validation, the soul seeks expression. The ego fears judgment, the soul knows it is beyond judgment. The ego compares timelines and achievements. The soul exists outside of time altogether. You have spent years listening to voices that told you who you are supposed to be. Parents, teachers, society, culture, all projecting their own fears and limitations onto your infinite canvas. And somewhere along the way, you began to believe them. You began to shrink. You began to doubt. You began to live as if you were less than. But you are not here to live as if you are less. You are here to awaken. Imagine a lion raised among sheep. If it never sees its reflection, it may learn to bleat. It may learn to move timidly. It may accept a life of limitation. But the moment it glimpses its true nature, everything changes. It does not need to prove it is a lion. It simply remembers. You are remembering. Acting as if you are the best is a form of remembrance. It is a daily practice of aligning with the truth that your essence is divine. It is waking up and declaring, I am not my fears, I am not my past, I am not the opinions of others, I am a living expression of infinite potential. I am. Those two words carry extraordinary power. When you say I am confident, you activate confidence. When you say I am worthy, you align with worthiness. But when you say I am not enough, you begin to create experiences that mirror that belief. The universe responds not to your wishes, but to your identity. Act as if you are the best because you understand that identity shapes destiny. When you walk into a challenge believing you are inferior, you contract. Your energy shrinks. Your creativity narrows. But when you walk in as if you are the best, not in comparison, but in conviction, you expand. Your mind opens. Solutions appear. Opportunities align. Not because you forced them, but because you vibrated differently. Energy does not lie. If you see yourself as small, the world reflects smallness back to you. If you see yourself as powerful, the world rearranges itself to meet that power. This is not mysticism, it is alignment. You attract what you are, not what you want. So become the version of yourself who already knows. Let go of the need to outperform. Let go of the need to dominate. Acting as if you are the best is not about being better than anyone. It is about being fully yourself, and no one can do that better than you. The oak tree does not wake up wishing to be a willow. The river does not envy the mountain. Each fulfills its nature completely, and in doing so, contributes to the harmony of the whole. When you abandon comparison, you liberate your energy. When you release envy, you reclaim your focus. When you stop measuring your journey against another's timeline, you step into peace. There are no justified resentments. If you resent someone's success, it is because you have forgotten your own. If you resent someone's confidence, it is because you have doubted your own. Forgiveness becomes essential not just of others, but of yourself, forever believing you were less. Forgive yourself for shrinking. Forgive yourself for playing small. Forgive yourself for seeking approval instead of alignment. And then rise. Rise into the awareness that you are a miracle, not metaphorically, literally. The odds of your existence are beyond comprehension. The intelligence orchestrating your heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts, it is the same intelligence that spins planets and bursts stars. Act as if you are the best, because the same power that creates universes creates through you. Imagine what your life would look like if you no longer feared being seen, if you no longer diluted your voice, if you no longer edited your dreams to fit other people's comfort zones. You would create boldly. You would love deeply. You would forgive quickly. You would move with certainty. Certainty not because you control outcomes, but because you trust your essence. The ego clings to control. It wants guarantees. It wants validation. It wants applause. But the soul is content with authenticity. The soul knows that fulfillment does not come from being superior. It comes from being aligned. And alignment is freedom. When you are aligned with your highest self, you no longer chase. You attract. You no longer prove. You express. You no longer compare. You create. Act as if you are the best because you understand that being your fullest self is your greatest service to the world. There is someone watching you right now, perhaps a child, perhaps a friend, perhaps a stranger, learning from your example. When you diminish yourself, you teach them to do the same. When you stand confidently in your truth, you teach them courage. Confidence rooted in spirit is unshakable because it is not dependent on outcome. You can fail publicly and still remain whole. You can be criticized and still remain centered. You can lose and still remain complete because your worth is not negotiable. It was established at your birth and it will not diminish at your death. It is intrinsic, inherent, infinite. Act as if you are the best, not to elevate yourself above others, but to dissolve the illusion that anyone could ever be beneath you or above you. We are waves in the same ocean. Some rise higher for a moment, some crash earlier, but all are water. When you understand this, jealousy becomes absurd, competition becomes unnecessary, fear becomes optional. You are not here to win against others. You are here to awaken within yourself. An awakening begins with identity. Say to yourself now, quietly but powerfully, I am enough, I am capable, I am divine. I am the best expression of life in this form. Feel the resistance. That resistance is the ego clinging to its story of limitation. Breathe through it. Let it dissolve. Replace it with truth. You do not need to wait for evidence to believe in yourself. Belief creates the evidence. Act as if you are the best today. Walk differently. Speak differently. Think differently. Not arrogantly, not aggressively, but intentionally. Look people in the eye. Hold your posture. Share your ideas. Take the step. Trust that the universe supports those who support themselves. You were never meant to live in the shadow of your own doubt. You were meant to shine, not for applause, but for alignment. not to outshine others, but to illuminate possibility. The sun does not ask permission to rise. It rises because that is its nature. It is your nature to expand. So expand beyond fear. Expand beyond comparison. Expand beyond the ego's desperate need to rank and measure. Act as if you are the best and no one is better than you. Because in the deepest spiritual sense, there is no better. There is only being. There is only expression. There is only the infinite intelligence experiencing itself as you. And when you fully embrace that truth, you will no longer strive to be superior. You will simply strive to be authentic. And authenticity is unstoppable. You are not here to compete. You are here to complete the unique design that only you can fulfill. When you do that, when you stand fully in your divine identity, something miraculous happens. You become free. Free from envy, free from insecurity, free from the exhausting race to be more than someone else. Free to simply be the magnificent expression of life that you already are. And in that freedom, you will discover a quiet, unshakable joy. A joy not tied to achievement, but to alignment. Not tied to praise, but to presence. Act as if you are the best. Not because you are above anyone, but because you have remembered who you are. And when you remember, the world changes. And when the world changes, it does not always change outside of you first. It changes within the quiet architecture of your perception. The mountains may still stand where they stood yesterday. The challenges may still appear at your doorstep. The same names may show up on your phone. But something within you has shifted. And because of that shift, everything begins to rearrange itself around your new awareness. You begin to notice that what once intimidated you now invites you. What once triggered you now teaches you. What once felt like opposition now feels like orchestration. And you realize that life has not been testing you, it has been refining you. It has been shaping your consciousness so that you could finally see yourself clearly. There is a sacred responsibility that comes with recognizing your own greatness. It is not a burden, but a calling. When you know you are powerful, you must choose how that power is expressed. You can use it to defend an illusion, or you can use it to embody love. You can use it to build walls, or you can use it to build bridges. True mastery is not found in control over others, but in stewardship over your own inner world. Consider this: the external world is a mirror, not a source. If you find chaos outside, search for turbulence within. If you encounter disrespect, ask where you have withheld respect from yourself. If you experience limitation, inquire into the beliefs you have unconsciously accepted. This is not about blame, it is about authorship. When you accept that you are the author of your inner state, you reclaim the pen, and from that place, you write differently. You begin to script your life not from fear of what might happen, but from faith in who you are becoming. You stop asking, what if I fail, and start asking, what if I expand? You release the old narrative that said your worth was conditional, and you begin living as though your existence itself is the qualification. There is an intelligence moving through you right now, organizing your thoughts, guiding your impulses, whispering subtle nudges toward growth. It does not shout, it does not force, it simply invites. The more you trust it, the louder it becomes, not in volume, but in clarity. It feels like a calm certainty that does not need explanation. Have you noticed how the most profound truths do not argue? They simply resonate. When you encounter something aligned with your soul, you feel it. There is a quiet expansion in your chest, a stillness in your mind, a recognition without effort. That is the voice of your higher self affirming, yes, this is who you are. Living as though you are unparalleled does not isolate you, it connects you more deeply. Because when you no longer seek validation, you can genuinely celebrate others. When your identity is secure, someone else's brilliance becomes inspiring rather than threatening. You see their success as evidence of possibility, not as a comparison point. And something beautiful unfolds. The energy you once spent competing becomes creative fuel. The energy you once invested in self-doubt becomes momentum. The energy you once drained through resentment becomes compassion. You start to understand that abundance is not something you acquire, it is something you align with. When you see yourself as a channel rather than a container, life flows through you effortlessly. Ideas come, opportunities appear, connections form, not because you chased them, but because your vibration invited them. There is a profound difference between striving and allowing. Striving is rooted in the belief that you are lacking. Allowing is rooted in the knowing that you are aligned. When you act from alignment, action feels inspired rather than forced. You move with grace instead of strain. Think of a dancer who is completely immersed in the music. There is no self-consciousness, no mental calculation. There is only flow. The dancer is not trying to prove skill. The dance is expressing itself through the dancer. This is what it feels like to live from your highest awareness. Life begins to move through you with elegance. But to reach that state, you must be willing to release the old masks. The mask of perfectionism, the mask of people-pleasing, the mask of indifference. Each mask was once a strategy for survival. Each one served a purpose. But you are no longer surviving, you are awakening. And awakening requires honesty. Where have you been pretending? Where have you silenced your intuition to maintain comfort? Where have you accepted less than your truth because it felt safer? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to liberate you. Because the moment you stop pretending, you reclaim energy. The moment you stop negotiating your worth, you reclaim dignity. The moment you stop outsourcing your identity, you reclaim sovereignty. Sovereignty is the understanding that your inner state belongs to you. No circumstance can dictate it without your consent. No person can diminish it unless you agree. When you know this, you walk differently. There is a steadiness in your presence, a groundedness that does not sway with external approval. This steadiness does not mean you will never feel doubt again. It means doubt will no longer define you. It may visit, but it will not reside. You will observe it, thank it for its outdated attempt to protect you, and gently return to your center. And what is your center? It is the awareness that you are a spiritual being, temporarily navigating form. Your body changes, your roles evolve, your circumstances fluctuate. But the essence, observing all of it, remains unchanged. Spend time with that essence. Sit in silence and feel the aliveness beneath your thoughts. Notice the space between breaths. Sense the presence that exists before a word forms in your mind. That presence is who you truly are. From that space, action becomes intentional. Words become measured. Reactions soften into responses. You no longer operate on autopilot. You operate from awareness. And awareness is power. Not power over others, but power over perception. When you master perception, you master experience. You understand that events themselves are neutral. It is the meaning you assign to them that shapes your reality. If someone criticizes you, you can interpret it as proof of inadequacy, or you can interpret it as information. If a door closes, you can label it rejection, or you can see it as redirection. The external event is the same. The inner interpretation determines the outcome. Acting as though you are unmatched means choosing interpretations that reinforce your inherent value. It means refusing to internalize narratives that shrink you. It means remembering that your identity is not up for negotiation. There is a quiet courage required to live this way. It is the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to stand alone when necessary, the courage to trust your inner compass even when the crowd moves in another direction. But solitude does not mean isolation. When you align with your authentic self, you begin to attract relationships that resonate with your frequency. Conversations become deeper. Connections become more meaningful. You no longer bond over complaint. You bond over growth. And gradually, you realize that the world you once sought to impress becomes the world you are here to inspire. Inspiration is not about performance. It is about embodiment. When you embody self-respect, others feel it. When you embody clarity, confusion dissipates around you. When you embody peace, conflict loses its grip. You become a stabilizing force, not because you impose control, but because you radiate coherence. Your inner harmony influences the field around you. Imagine if every individual embraced this awareness. If each person recognized their own irreplaceable value and acted from that knowing, comparison would lose its grip on humanity. We would stop climbing over one another in pursuit of approval and begin lifting one another in recognition of shared divinity. And it begins with you, not tomorrow, not when you achieve something, not when someone finally validates you. Now, in this breath, in this decision to see yourself clearly. Stand in front of a mirror and look into your own eyes. Beyond the features, beyond the history, beyond the stories. Look into the consciousness looking back at you. That consciousness is ancient. It has traveled through experiences, learned through lifetimes of lessons, gathered wisdom through joy and pain alike. Honor it. Treat it as sacred. Because when you honor yourself, you teach the world how to honor you. When you carry yourself with quiet certainty, you no longer need to demand respect. It arises naturally. When you speak from authenticity, your words carry weight. When you act from integrity, trust follows. You begin to see that the life you desire is not something you chase, it is something you become aligned with. Opportunities are drawn to congruence. Success is drawn to clarity. Love is drawn to wholeness. Wholeness does not mean flawlessness. It means embracing every aspect of yourself with compassion. It means integrating your shadows rather than denying them. It means understanding that your mistakes were teachers, not verdicts. Nothing you have experienced has reduced your value. It has only deepened your awareness. The detours refined you. The heartbreak softened you. The challenges strengthened you. All of it prepared you to stand here now with a deeper understanding of who you are. And who you are is not accidental. You are intention embodied. You are possibility in motion. You are consciousness exploring its own potential. So walk forward with the quiet conviction that you are irreplaceable, not superior, not inferior, simply unique beyond comparison. Let your actions reflect your knowing. Let your choices mirror your worth. Let your presence communicate your certainty. And when doubt attempts to return, meet it with compassion. Remind yourself gently, I am not here to compete, I am here to express. I am not here to dominate, I am here to contribute. I am not here to measure myself against another wave in the ocean. I am here to rise fully as the wave I was born to be. As you continue this journey, remember that the greatest transformation is not external achievement, but internal alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions harmonize with your deepest truth, life begins to feel effortless. Not because obstacles disappear, but because resistance dissolves. And in that state, you do not need to declare that you are the best. You simply live in a way that makes it undeniable. And so you continue, not as someone striving to become worthy, but as someone who has finally recognized that worth was never absent. The journey ahead is not about acquisition. It is about embodiment. It is about allowing what has always been within you to step forward without obstruction. There is a moment in every awakening where you realize that the cage you felt confined by had no lock. The door was never sealed. It was held shut by belief, by inherited narratives, by unconscious agreements, by the quiet assumption that you were smaller than your longing. And once you see that, once you place your hand on that door and gently push, the entire structure dissolves. Freedom was never outside. It was a decision. And decisions shape destiny far more than circumstances ever could. When you act from the inner knowing that you are incomparable, your relationship with fear changes. Fear no longer becomes a stop sign. It becomes a signal. It signals expansion. It signals growth. It signals that you are standing at the edge of your old identity, preparing to step into a wider version of yourself. The ego trembles at this edge. It prefers the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. It whispers, stay here, at least you know this discomfort. But your higher awareness gently encourages, move forward. There is more of you waiting. And so you move, not recklessly, not arrogantly, but deliberately. You begin to notice that confidence is not loud. It does not need to dominate conversations or command attention. True confidence is quiet. It is a grounded presence that does not flinch in the face of challenge. It listens deeply. It responds thoughtfully. It stands firmly without aggression. This kind of confidence is born from self-trust. Self-trust is cultivated in small, consistent acts of alignment. It grows each time you honor your intuition. Each time you say no when your inner voice says no. Each time you say yes when your spirit says yes. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small. Gradually, an inner solidity forms. You stop second-guessing every step. You stop outsourcing your decisions to external approval. You realize that the guidance you have been seeking has always been whispering from within. There is a sacred rhythm to your life that no one else can hear as clearly as you can. When you slow down enough to listen, you sense it. It is subtle, but unmistakable. It guides you toward experiences that expand you and away from those that contract you. Acting as if you are the best means honoring that rhythm, even when it does not align with the expectations of others.